And in the middle class, over the last 30 years, the average income of the middle class has remained flat in spite of the inflation. In fact, it has come down. Can you imagine that? Here we have pay commission after pay commission and our wages are allowed to grow where the public sector is concerned. Nothing like that has happened. It has remained flat over 25 to 30 years. So we should not be carried away by all the things that happen there. In fact, things have become so bad that Professor Joseph Stiglitz is a professor of economics in Columbia University, and he has won the Nobel Prize for his contributions to economics. Nobel Prize, it's a big deal. And this is what he says. It is no use pretending that what has obviously happened has not in fact happened. The upper 1% of Americans are now taking in nearly 250,000 of the nation's income every year. An economy in which most citizens are doing worse year after year, an economy like America's is not likely to do well over the long haul. Of all the costs imposed on our society by the top 1%, perhaps the greatest is this: the erosion of our sense of identity, in which fair play, equality of opportunity and a sense of community are so important. And so the question arises, are there no solutions to this problem of economic inequity? There sure is, and in fact the solution is very simple, but sadly it's not very well known, and I would like to bring it to your notice. The solution was taught to me personally by my spiritual master Bhagavan Satya Sai Baba, and he has also given talks about this to management students in our university. This is so important and so unusual. I would request all of you to pay some careful attention. Next slide, please. You may say, what is this? Is this a lesson in physiology? I thought you were talking about India's problems. Well, it turns out that the human body is a very good, what you call, mirror of human society. And if you understand how the human body works, you will understand how the human society works. And then if you understand how the human body gets sick, you will understand how human society gets sick. Then you can say, can I apply those methods of treatment to the society? When does it work? When does it not work? That is the route along which I am going to take you. Okay, what you have here is a depiction of a cell. Just as solids are made up of atoms, the body is made up of cells. Our body is made up of trillions and trillions and trillions of cells. Now when I rub my hand like this, we don't know, but lots of cells are falling off from my skin. Happens all the time. So our body is made up of cells, but there are many different kinds of cells. You can go and look at high school books of biology and you find the names. I have just shown them schematically here. What do the cells do? When they come together, they form organs: brain, lungs, heart, liver, gallbladder, intestines, and so on. There are so many organs in our body. All the organs make systems. If you look at our body, there are multiple systems that are operating in parallel as though they are laid over each other. First, there is the skeletal system. Then there is the muscular system. Then there is the respiratory system, which is essentially connected with taking in air and exhaling air. Then there is the circulatory system, which is essentially connected with taking the nutrition from the stomach and the oxygen from the lungs to various parts of the body. That is done by the blood along with the circulatory system. And as it goes, the blood also collects the waste. On one side it's like a postman, and on the other side it's like a garbage collector, collects it all and deals with it appropriately. So you have many systems: reproductive system, excretory system, and so on. All these systems, all these organs put together give you the body. Keep that in mind as we look at the next slide. Next slide, please. So we have the micro, which is the cell, a functional unit which could be any organ like the heart. One system here, I think I have the skeletal system. And all of it forms a part of the macro, which is the body. Next slide, please. If you look at society, we have a very similar thing. Here is the macro, here is the micro. Micro is the individual. You, me, and everyone else in this hall. plus all the millions of people outside in this town of Panaji and the whole of the country and the whole of the planet, 7 billion almost. All of us are the building block of human society or humanity. Let us take functional unit like a school, hospital, shop, post office, airport, railway station, you name it. They are all like organs. So in school there are teachers and students, hospital there are doctors, nurses, patients and so on. There are individuals everywhere. And this forms a part of the educational system, this forms a part of the healthcare system, this forms a part of the commercial system. These are like the systems in the human body. They are all sort of working independently but in parallel, all for the sake of human society. And the next slide please. So you see here the correspondence between the body and society. Micro, here is the cell, here is an individual. For sake of illustration, I have taken a postman. Functional unit, here is the organ, is the post office. Here is the system. System is the entire, thing I can't quite see. Maybe it's the circulatory system. Here, post office means postal system. And this is the society, macro. So there is what the mathematician would say, a one-to-one correspondence. One-to-one correspondence. And now, Satya Sai Baba says, whatever the body does, a healthy body does, why don't people do the same thing in human society? Let us look at what the healthy body does. Let us say I eat something. It is very tasty. It's the tongue that experiences the taste. It doesn't say this is very tasty and keeps it in the mouth and go on experiencing the taste. After a while, the tongue has to see that it is swallowed, it goes to the stomach. The stomach doesn't keep it. Stomach digests. Then it goes to the intestine and then the nutrition goes all around. So, in other words, every entity in the body works for somebody else. It doesn't work for itself. And similarly, Baba said, even when there are times of distress, every entity tries to help the agency that is in distress. He gave a very simple example. He says, let us say there is a boy, a tribal boy in the forest. As he is walking, he steps on a thorn. What does he do? He sits on a rock, takes his leg and puts it like this, and looks at the leg, holds it with one hand, and the other hand he pulls out the thorn. Now you can say it's the leg that is hurt, it's the job of the leg to get rid of the thorn. Why should the hand and the eye help? That is because the pain is felt by the whole body. Supposing you are having fever due to stomach upset or something, and the doctor comes and gives an injection. The muscle in the hand doesn't say, hey, I am not bothered with the stomach, go and give the injection in the stomach. Nobody says that, we accept it. So, he says, why don't you have, next slide please. There is an operating system in the body, rules and procedures, just like a computer operating system. Why don't you take it and apply it in human society? This operating system is not Windows or any other system. It is my system. That's what God says. No problem with copyright. You get it free, take it and apply it. What does applying it to society mean? It means that everybody works selflessly, keeping in mind others. And when we do that, society as a whole will reward us. You see, just as there is an upward responsibility in the body, where the cell works for the organ works for the body, there is a downward responsibility also. The body lives a healthy life, eats good food, makes sure it eats eats carrots and all that so the eyes get vitamin A, makes sure it takes calcium so that the bones get strong, makes sure it eats fiber so that the excretory system works properly, and so on and so forth. So they all get what is their due if they work for the boss. The boss actually takes care of everybody, everybody who works for the boss. When you carry it over to society, it means if all individuals work in the spirit of Karma Yoga, then all our institutions, banks, government offices, railways, you name it, all of them would function smoothly and honestly and contribute to a healthy society. This is how individuals discharge their responsibility to society. And in such a society, the society pays back by looking after everybody. All work for one, which is the society, and society works for all. And there is no difference between all and one, because the all is the macro of the one. That is the way it is all integrated. And just to tell you how bad this thing can go, I can give the following example. About 30 years ago, BRC, with which I was connected, established a branch in Calcutta. It was established in a place called Salt Lake. It is now called Salt Lake City, which was quite far from the city and quite near the airport. It was a very backward area and very difficult to get access to. And BRC had to pay salaries to the staff. There was a difficulty with the local bank. So they requested the state bank to establish a branch right near the cyclotron laboratory so that salaries could be paid. So on the 1st of every month, money would be deposited in the state bank branch right near our laboratory. Our staff would go there. At about, it's supposed to open at 10 o'clock, 10:30 only the fellows will come. And then from 10 to 10:30 to 11, they won't do anything. 11 o'clock, that fellow will sit in the chair like this, take the newspaper and start reading. And the fellows will be standing there. They said, come on. And there was an argument. The fellow said, look, you have come late. Now you are not doing anything. You are reading newspaper. You have paid salary to come and work. And their argument is remember, it's Calcutta, Marxist country, at least those days. We are paid salary to come to the office. To do work, you have to pay overtime. I mean, that is the kind of logic. Now, just imagine what will happen in the case of society if everybody says that I will do what I want. That is individualism. Today that is happening in society. People say, I don't care, I am independent. We are not independent as we think we are. If I am really independent, I must be able to survive on my own like caveman. I cannot survive on my own like the caveman, for the simple reason, everybody has a cell phone. If the cell phone breaks down, you want somebody else to repair it, or at least if you are rich enough, you want to go and buy it. If there is no cell phone shop, we are stuck. So we are dependent on others. And let us say there are cells in the body. If all the cells in one region sort of misbehave, that organ gets affected. If the cells in various parts of the body misbehave very erratically, and that can happen, then you have what is called metastasis. And metastasis in the case of the body means death. That is the last stage. I am not joking. If you reach metastasis, it's not possible to come back. I am speaking from personal knowledge because that's what happened to my wife. She got breast cancer in 1990. Surgery was done. But doctor said nothing else is required. I asked, chemo? No. Radiation? No. But some cells were lingering somewhere and they didn't recommend additional treatment. 8 years later, it came. We didn't know that it had come back. She went to the doctor and put up a I took her. She was supposed to be having TB or some problem. So he did the X-ray. He looked at the X-ray and said, there's something funny. There are some unexplained things here. Then my wife said, I had mastectomy in 1991. Doctor asked, did you have any checkup? No. Did the doctor recommend any chemo? Radiation? No. Then you come for checkup tomorrow. They do the checkup and I take the report to one of the doctors. The doctor says, this person has no business to be alive. He said, what do you mean? You are talking of my wife. I said, it spread everywhere. And by Baba's grace, she got some remission for 2 years, but at the end of it, the story was over. Now, human societies don't die, but they break down. If you don't believe me, go to the net and look up what is the state of Somalia. For 20 years, Somalia didn't have a government. Now they are trying to put a government. You know what it means not to have a government in a big country? That means there is nobody to print currency. There is no federal bank. There is no university educational department which runs university. There is no postal system. There is no police system. Nothing. The countries survive by, almost in a tribal fashion for 20 years. And all sorts of things happen. Today, Afghanistan is on the verge of becoming a broken society. And 2 years ago, things are so bad in Pakistan, they were worried that it might become a broken society. If that became a broken society, it's very dangerous because the population is 200 million and they have nuclear weapons. Who knows what madman will take and do war. So we have to be very, very careful today because of the way we are supposed to approach. And we must also know that in the name of progress we are doing certain things most irresponsibly. America has developed a lot by burning coal to produce electricity. It has pumped all the European countries and America have pumped so much of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere that between them they have polluted the atmosphere in a very large amount. The carbon pollution of atmosphere is measured via a number which tells you how many parts per million of carbon there are in 1 cubic meter of air. When people began to talk of trouble, which was about 25 years ago, they said 350 ppm is the limit. By the time Al Gore gave his report and got the Nobel Prize, it was coming close to 350 parts per million. Last year it crossed 400 parts per million. Now they say the damage is so much that it may take 100 years for it to cool off. But there is no let up. India and China are saying we have to grow, so we need to produce a lot of energy. There is only one way to burn oil or coal. So we have to live with polluting the atmosphere. Now if we do that, essentially we are robbing the future generations of their future. There was an unwritten rule in the past. Every generation that is born on planet Earth had the right to use the resources of the planet Earth, and it must leave the planet in the same condition in which it received, so that the future generations will enjoy the same benefit. Now really I am taking a loan from the future generation and telling you, goodbye, I am going to die tomorrow and I am not going to pay back your debt. You can do what you want. You can do any yoga, stand on your head, but you are not getting back your ecosystem because I screwed it up. If you want, you can unscrew it. That is what we are, that's the kind of generation, the message we are giving to our generation of our grandchildren. We should ask, is this the gift that grandfathers and grandmothers give to their grandchildren? Nobody asks this question. We will ask this question only when we feel a sense of guilt in our hearts. So, let me now come to the next slide. This is Michael Sandel, a professor of Harvard University. And he in America has written a book, What Money Can't Buy. Can you imagine? And that is because he realizes there is a limit to chasing money. And beyond that, it becomes a poison. You have to be very careful. And I talked about asymmetric growth. Let me show you the next slide to show what that means. This is a map of India, and these brown regions show where there is a lot of Naxal activity. Some 3-4 years ago, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh said, insurgency, that is the word he used for Maoist activity or Naxalite activity. He said, insurgency is a greater problem than terrorism. That is Al-Qaeda kind of terrorism. And that insurgency was in about 130 districts out of 600 odd districts in the country. Today, insurgency has spread to 220 districts, almost 1/3 of India. Do we realize that? Why did this insurgency start? Who are the people who are causing this insurgency? Few words about that. Basically, this all started with tribals. There are 85 million tribals in India. That is more than the population of Germany. 85 million, approximately more. In British times, the tribals used to live in the forest, and the British said, be there, be good, we won't bother you. And the tribals don't do agriculture, they live off the forest. They do what is called sustainable existence, subsistence living. They take the fruits, the berries, the animals, and they live off that. That's all. They have no great houses, air conditioning power. They hunt and they are very content with their life. After independence, our forest reserves began to dwindle very rapidly because people cut down the wood for what you call lumber, and then they built dams which began to drown entire valleys and villages. The Narmada Dam in Madhya Pradesh has drowned hundreds and hundreds of tribal areas. A large amount of forest disappeared into the lakes. So these people have lost their homes where they lived for 1,000 years or more. The government said, go and do there, do cultivation, take 1 acre there. These fellows don't know how to do cultivation. They are not educated. Nobody bothered. And after a while there was reaction. Trouble started. And it started here in Bengal, in a place called Naxalbari. That's why they are called Naxalites. And who came to their help? Educated, unemployed youth of Bengal, big the bastion of Marxism. They took charge of the tribals. They said, we will fight your battle. Today it is spread all over here. And this sort of thing is happening in Latin America, where there is a clash between the tribals and vested interests. In the Amazon jungle, they have oil. The oil companies want to go there. The tribals said, we have lived here for 10,000 years, don't come here. So there is a fight. Their resources are being taken away and they are given nothing else. Now, why am I mentioning this? There is a reason why I am mentioning this. Next slide. I will go through quickly, don't worry. This is a picture taken in the northern part of East Godavari district in the state of Andhra Pradesh as it is now. Very soon I may get partitioned. And that is creating a lot of problems for us to go to Puttaparthi and come back. There's a lot of agitation. Everybody is on hunger strike or carouse and whatever. In the state of Andhra Pradesh, there are two districts called West Godavari and East Godavari. The border is formed by the Godavari river, which rises in Maharashtra near Nasik, and it's a beautiful broad river. But in the northern part, you have these hills. And if you go north, you enter Chhattisgarh. Keep that in mind. Next slide, please. This is a tribal area. You can see these are all tribes. They live in the old-fashioned way. And these people were having a lot of drinking water problem. In around 2002-03, Satya Sai Baba did a drinking water for people of East and West Godavari. That's a long story. I can't go into that. But he said, as a part of this, let me do some drinking water project for the tribal people. Tribal people, next slide please, used to get water from mountain streams like this. But in summer, this would not dry up. Then they would go trek into the forest to find small trickling streams. That was very dangerous because it was all snake infested. So Baba said, I will do a drinking water project. I will sink a collection well by the side of the river, because even if there is no water in the river bed, there will be subsoil water. I will suck it with pumps and take it somewhere, process it and distribute it. So this is part of the drinking water project. And I took this picture many years ago when I went there. Next slide please. This is the pump house where the water from the collection well is brought and purified. There are many stages in purification. This is part of the machinery that is there. Now this is about 1 acre. And without this flat land, this thing could not have been built. Now when this project was being done, the project authorities, Larsen and Toubro, they faced a difficulty. They couldn't get flat land. Everything was owned. And nobody would give their land. Tribals. They were farming or something like that. And the government said, you cannot cut any trees. This is a protected forest. There are even tigers here. So you cannot cut any trees. So you find your own way. And the project got literally sort of stuck. They didn't know what to do until something happened. Next slide, please. This lady is a tribal lady. She has not gone to school, much less Harvard or MIT. But she heard that Satya Sai Baba was going to give water to them and he needed land. She donated that land free of cost to the project. She said, if Baba, who has never seen us, is willing to do so much for us, how much love we must have. Let me show my love to Baba by giving this land. I think you should give her a big hand. Nobody has seen her picture, nothing. She has not come in the cover of Time magazine or even India Today. But it is because of good people that, next slide please, that project could be completed. And here you see the tribals getting water very nicely right near their home. And over 3 or 4 years later, next slide please, the tribals came to see Satya Sai Baba, and this is Baba giving darshan in the big hall called Sai Kulwant Hall. And when the tribals came, they brought produce of the forest, various grains, honey, and so on. And I was present, and when I saw this, I was very touched, because when Rama goes on exile, Lord Rama, he comes to the Ganges, to cross the Ganges and enter the forest. There is old friend Guha, who is a tribal. He brings similar things to Rama. So thousands of years later, the tribals do the same. They come and they dance for Baba. Next slide, please. Here you see a tribal doing dance. You know, about 500 of them came. They had never seen a train in their life, because they live far away from railway station, airport. They don't know anything about them. They had never seen a train. They came to Rajmundry, took a train from there. And Rajmundry is 150 kilometers from the hills. Took a train. There was an escort, the organization brought them. And they were so thrilled to see all this. Next slide, please. Here you see the tribals. These are real bison horns, bisons which they must have hunted. And so Sai Baba did this. What's the big deal? The big deal is that in East Godavari district, which is just south of Chhattisgarh, there is no tribal unrest, there is no Marxist problem, but just north there is Marxist problem. Why? Because there the people are being neglected, here the people who are not neglected. After Baba did this, Satya Sai Seva organization has been mounting a very big program. Every week they they give medical help and various other kinds of help. Now they feel secure, they feel that someone cares for them. And that brings me to my next slide. Next slide, please. Knowledge, if it is combined with selfishness, can lead to a lot of profit for a few. But that profit would come with exploitation, it would lead to inequity, and it would destabilize society. But if that same knowledge can be combined with selflessness, then it would lead to prosperity that is shared and stability in society. The East Godavari drinking water project that Baba did is a classic example of the green option. And the red option, classic example, is Wall Street, and it destabilized not only the American economy, but the whole world. Next slide, please.